Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross and I'm the founder at designcuts.com, and this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert Ian Barnard, American retro design expert Dustin Lee, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator Lisa Glantz. This week we're chatting with Teela Cunningham. Teela is one of our absolute favourite creatives. She has educated millions of other designers through her entertaining and informative videos, and she runs every Tuesday a hub of high-quality design products, creative courses, and all kinds of other awesome stuff alongside her husband, Spencer. She is super talented as a designer, but also a creative marketer, and so today we're really excited to pick her brain. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Teela, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That was quite a wordy intro. I was struggling when I first wrote it because you are simply doing so much, and I feel like you've evolved and tried so many things over the years.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's definitely been a lot of testing along the way.
So I think it will definitely be beneficial to delve deeper into some of that stuff. But for the listeners out there who they might know you and want to know more, or they might not be familiar with you, could you kind of sum up your creative career, I guess, in a bit of a nutshell for us?
Sure. So I'm a graphic designer and hand lettering artist. I'm based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I graduated in 2008 with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in graphic design, got my first job right out of college. And in 2009, I started selling digital products online and have kind of been doing that ever since. And then in 2013, I was working at a design studio in Atlanta, and my coworkers would always ask me how I was doing certain things in the programs. And one of my coworkers said, half joking, you should just make a video so I don't have to keep on asking you. So in January of 2014, I published my first YouTube tutorial, and it did really well. So I started doing tutorials more often, and then it became a weekly thing. So that's kind of how Every Tuesday was born. So every Tuesday I would post a new tutorial. And then in 2015, I published my first online course. It did well enough to encourage me to keep creating new online courses. And then in the fall of 2015, my husband and I, who I met at the studio, both quit our full-time jobs and have been doing Every Tuesday ever since. So we just hit our 4-year work anniversary, I guess.
Yay.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that is so cool. Yeah.
You made that sound very easy. I'm guessing
Yeah.
It probably wasn't.
No, I mean, since 2008 to 2015, that was a solid 7 years of struggle, I would say. So
Wow.
Those 7 years, not so fun, but now it's great.
Can you share a little bit more about those early days? Because that is something we're obsessed with on this show. I never want people to kind of fast track that and skip it out and then be like, Look at how great I'm doing today, because I think it's not so relatable. So like, how real can we get with some of that?
Sure. Yeah.
And also it's also how you juggled the fact that you were doing a proper job and your side thing at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So 2008, I started at my first job, which was a startup children's toy company. And it was right when the recession was terrible. So I was thankful that I even had a job. But that was... It got more and more difficult as time went on, and we would miss paychecks, and it was just really unstable. And for me, it was student loans and just the stress of not knowing if I was going to be able to buy groceries that week because they would never tell us when we weren't going to get paid. So
So they literally turned around and were like, sorry, no paycheck this month? Or like, will I you double next month, or that kind of thing?
The first few that they missed, we would get an email and say, it's going to be late, but it's coming. So we would just wait, and then they would always come through on it, or they would give us a partial check. And then eventually we would just assume that we weren't going to get paid, and we wouldn't know when we'd get paid. Luckily, when I left, it was tough. Luckily, when I left, they did, when I left, I had a full, whatever they owed me, I left with. So I was really grateful for that. So I left to a job that I wasn't thrilled about, was not the ideal job. It was for a home furnishings business. I was driving a little over an hour. It was like 55 miles one way by myself there and back. It was a miserable work environment. like women were not treated as equals at all. Like I was never going to be treated as an equal there. So that was really difficult. And I was there. So I was at the toy company for 2.5 years. And then this new business I was at for like 1.5 years. And I was just like I was sending emails, trying to get interviews. And my portfolio had like toy company stuff in it, and then this home furnishing like social media graphics that I was doing. So my portfolio sucked. So I was like, what kind of work am I even going to get? So that's when I started ramping up what I was doing on the side for digital products, because I had started that in 2009, started the home furnishings business or working for them in 2010. So on the nights and weekends, I would just make stationery design because that's what I really loved. And I'd be posting that online for sale. So at least I was building some kind of portfolio of this kind of work I wanted to get instead of the work that was in my portfolio that I ended up getting. So that was, so I did that for 1.5 years. And thank God, like once I finally left there, it was amazing. I ended up going to the design studio, and that was really wonderful for the first year. And I got to work on a ton of really cool projects, but that work environment slowly got worse and worse. I always feel like looking back that I was put in all these miserable situations because I was supposed to start my own thing. Because if it, like knowing myself, it had been even a little bit better than it was, I probably would have stayed. Like I wouldn't have worked as hard as I did to get out of there.
Why was it so bad in the last place?
So the last place, I had a creative director that just was not into my style at all. I worked there for 3.5 years, and he never tried to sell what my version of like a logo or a brand. He would never sell my work to the client. He would always choose another designer's work to sell to a client. So over 3.5 years, he never sold a single piece of my work. And it made me question whether I should even be a designer. So it's kind of amazing right now. I'm talking to all of you about my successful small business that's largely based on my aesthetic. And for 3.5 years, I questioned if this is what I should be doing because he never sold my work.
Did you find that you also, that sort of doubting your design skills, did you ever feel that, because when I worked for someone else, I felt I was designing for their style rather than my own. So it was like, I'd think, actually, there's no point me really putting my spin on it because that person will not choose it or will not. Did you find that frustrating, the fact that you just, obviously you found them not choosing your work, but did you find that you had to sort of think, okay, what is the director going to like more than what I think?
Yeah, did you adjust your style?
Yeah.
I wanted my work sold so bad that I was willing to do like whatever style I had to do because I wanted to please the client. I wanted to make my creative director proud. I wanted him to look at me more seriously than I felt like he was looking at me. So I was willing to do whatever I needed to do. I mean, I even offered to like take home work so I could work on it just to make it that much better for the pitch. And I would, like, he always put me on these menial tasks of like doing presentation decks and brand standards. I would have to write all of that for other people's work. So here I was a designer and I'm writing like rules for someone else's logo. Like they should be writing that stuff. And I was given that. Before I left, he put me on. So this is not really selling my work, but it was a project that I worked directly on and kind of owned because obviously no one else would ever want to do it. I worked on catheters for a good 1.5 years before I left. So branding, package design, that was my life for 1.5 years. So you can imagine once I saw the opportunity to go off on my own,
took it. Yeah.
That was pretty
talk
amazing.
about a challenge.
Yes. But like I had to have a job, and you do what you have to when you're in those situations. But it didn't mean that I had to stay there, and I'm the type that I'm always the optimist. I'm always looking for, the good side of things. And I learned a lot about working with different people and clients, and I did a lot of production work, so I feel like I'm really, really good at putting files together. So my technical abilities in the different design programs are a huge strength of mine now because I've had to, get everything production ready for these large graphics for, like I've worked on Olympic work and Coke and Visa and the World Cup. I've done all kinds of these huge, massive projects where I had to prepare the artwork. So I feel like really comfortable and confident in that. And that confidence I'm able to put into my tutorials and my courses. So I'm trying to always look back at it. Like I met my husband there, and I got all of this really great education from working with our production, the lead of the production department. So it wasn't all bad, but that part was pretty terrible.
That's two pretty big wins, though, I would say.
Yes.
Especially the husband bit.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can never regret my time there, all the really difficult times, because I got my husband out of it, started the business. And if I had been even a little bit more comfortable, like who knows, if he had sold a couple of my pieces, then maybe I never would have left. I don't know. Like
you could be known as the catheter queen.
Oh God!
The nation.
No. Hopefully, another designer would have gotten that instead of me.
But don't you also find that going through those difficult emotional and creative challenges? I mean, I don't know. Are you at a stage now where you can actually look back and go, "I'm actually glad I went through that because it made me realize so much about myself," or I learned this about, the way I approach a design project, or, I learned that I shouldn't compromise, did you not learn an emotional side?
I mean, there are things that I'm thankful for. I think it's still like a little painful because now I can see things differently than I could in the moment. Like I'm one of these people that's just eager to always please and make everybody happy. And I don't think about my own happiness while I'm doing that. So now looking back on it, I'm like, wow, they treated me pretty terribly. And I didn't even see it at the time. So I'm really grateful that I was able to start my YouTube channel and it did well, and sell online courses and keep up with my digital products, because all that time on the weekends and at night, I really learned what my style was, and I got it really fine-tuned in that time. So when I was ready to leave, I already had these income streams built up where I felt really comfortable. I could sleep at night. I knew I was going to be okay.
Can you paint a picture of a typical day back then?
Back then?
Yeah, like as in the time spent at work. How much time did you
juggling.
put in the evening? What did that look like?
Yeah, so in the morning, we would sleep as long as possible. I'm not a morning person. I'm a super huge night owl. So I would stay up super late working. So I'd wake up at the last possible minute, and I didn't care what I looked like for these people because I felt like I was being treated awful. So it was just like roll out of bed, eat breakfast, and be on my way. So I'd get to work. My husband and I would listen to, if you guys are familiar with Pat Flynn, the Smart Passive Income podcast, we would listen to an episode on the way to work because that was a good hour drive, and then on the way home. So we would get two podcast episodes a day on the way there and back. And then when I was at work during my lunch hour, I would be reading online marketing tips because I knew that if I was going to be successful, I needed to know how to promote my work. And I didn't want to be the sleazy salesperson. Just that's not in me at all. And I wanted to be, very honest and genuine with how I was helping people with the work that I was creating. So I knew I needed to learn more about online marketing so I could bring traffic to these items, because my dream was always to go off on my own. So my lunch hour, I would do that. So I would break up my day a little bit because it gave me something to look forward to when I was really miserable. And I would sit at work at my desk and I would eat there just so I could learn stuff during the day that wasn't related to my day job. And then hour drive back, take the dog for a walk, eat dinner, and then work, because my husband was teaching himself how to code. He's our web developer.
So he didn't know at this point?
No, he was a designer at the same studio. So he was teaching himself how to code. So he would do tutorials and just following them and trying to write his own code at night. And meanwhile, I was starting the blog and I was recording at night. I was writing blog posts, creating images, working on digital products. Once I started doing courses, I was planning all of that out, figuring out when I would record. We would look forward to like holidays off because it meant we would have a full day that we could just work at home.
Wow.
Yeah. And then on the weekends, it was just nonstop, just work every minute we could. And we did that for a little over a year, because I started the blog in 2013, and it didn't make any money until almost a year and a half later.
Sorry,
so
can you say that once more for the people at the back? How long did you keep working so hard?
It was over a year. And the thing is all the kind responses that I was getting on my YouTube channel and the emails that I was getting from people who I was helping, that's what kept me going, because I was so miserable at work. And all these kind responses made me feel like, all right, I am a designer. I can design. I do have work. I have something to offer the world, even if I don't have something to offer my creative director. And that changed everything for me. That was my reason for getting up every day and staying up super late at night.
I love that.
What changed to make it financially? Because I know that I don't really have a blog, but I know that blogs are still really good way of, I suppose, building your brand, but also building income. How does that work in terms of your blog? How do you monetize that?
Sure.
After you've done all this hard work.
I never did ads or any of that. I would do my YouTube tutorials, and I would mention some of my digital products, and I would make things in my tutorials using my products, and I would just mention them. So then that would increase my sales, and having the blog with a written version of the tutorial would increase my SEO. So that would draw traffic. So then people could see my other products, my other offerings at the same time.
And were you just putting out content and it was good, so over time it got attention, or did you have kind of more distribution going on than just that? Because I know those early days, people often feel like they're stuck in that catch-22, right? So it's like, even if your content's great, you're a smaller channel, so you're probably going to get less SEO love on YouTube and so on.
Right.
So you're just putting out content, you're putting out blog posts, no one's looking at it. So where do you get the people from when you don't have people to get the people?
So I started my email list pretty early on. So I was able, when people did purchase a product, they went on my email list and I could start talking to them already and building that relationship. I had a few of my videos early on do very well, which I was mentioning my website in and encouraging people to subscribe right away. I don't know if I heard it somewhere or I just did it because I should have done it, but my videos from the very first one, I told people, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. And people were subscribing. So once I had those good, those tutorials that did fairly well, my channel started picking up steam, so then I could promote my website. I would mention my website every single video. So that would start driving traffic, and then sales would increase. And my YouTube channel is the entire reason that Skillshare reached out to me in 2015 and asked me to do a course. So that's what kind of started my dive into courses. And that was when Skillshare was much smaller than it is today. So when I put my first course on there, it got more traffic than a course would get these days with the following that I had at the time. So it's kind of hitting things at the right time. I was really lucky.
Nice. That's great.
Well, I wouldn't say lucky. I would say astute and hardworking and savvy. But,
absolutely.
No, I love it. And we've obviously worked with you, Teela, for quite a few years at Design Cuts. And so I always loved watching it grow, what you were building. But because we're quite busy, I wouldn't be checking in every week or anything. So normally a few months would go by and I go and check in again. And whenever I checked out your YouTube channel, it'd be like, oh, she's hit 20,000 subscribers now. Like, that's amazing. Oh, it's gone up again. Like every time I checked back, I felt like it was a new order of magnitude. So do you mind sharing? I'm going to give you permission to gloat here. Like what kind of scale are we looking at now in terms of your platforms and the reach and impact that you can now have?
The following. So my YouTube channel has just over 200,000. My Instagram has 50. Pinterest, I think, has 25. My email list has 35.
1,000.
Yes.
For everyone listening. Yeah.
What am I missing?
That's crazy. And a ton of people check out
Skillshare,
your blog and
I think,
stuff
has
as
like
well.
35,000 on Skillshare.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. And you're doing all of this, without a team really. It's like you.
It's just me and my husband. Yep.
And we've had quite a few calls together with the three of us. And I mean this as like such a compliment. The two of you are like adorably geeky when it comes to marketing. I actually love it. Like it's so sweet. You sit there and just like now you're like, we just stay up and like listen to marketing podcasts together and stuff.
We
I
love
think it's
it.
like
We talk about marketing all the time. We're pretty obsessed. Yeah.
Could you maybe, because like for people who are not you, Teela, or Tom, could you reel off some things that you found really useful over the your past sort of 6-7 years of doing, you mentioned Pat Flynn, and I know he does a lot of resources about, starting up a blog and having passive income. Is there any other things that people can, podcasts or resources that you think, oh, this is a must, you must have this one? Or
or like breakthrough moments, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Just like I think Ian, what you're saying is like for all the listeners at home, if they've got a notepad ready, what bullet points should they be putting down right now that they can run with?
The smartest thing I ever did was create an email list. Because those are I call them my Tuesday tribe now. Those are my people that get what I'm doing, that have stuck with me for so long. And as soon as I started doing that, I got a lot of tips from Pat Flynn about how to build an email list. Brian Harris is another one. He's got a website called Video Fruit. He offers a ton of really valuable information about building an email list as well. And Tom's got some great tips too on his Instagram. So yeah, all these tips are super valuable. You have to make sure that you're providing an incentive to people to join your email list. You can't just have a pop-up when someone arrives at your website and expect them to join your list and love everything you do. So that was a huge light bulb moment for me as I started my email list. I offered a really great incentive. I spent a lot of time on it. I've since offered even more. I've built up this entire resource library of different freebies. I think I'm close to 80 different freebies now. So when you join my email list, you get them all. You can just go and download all of them if you want.
And I think that's indicative of what you do across your whole brand. You over deliver. Yes. You're not someone that really does stuff by halves. And even like when we had you on one of our weekly hangouts at Design Cuts, you came in and that was like, premium quality course material.
Oh, thank you.
And you're there giving it away for free. And so I think just, for the people taking notes, like don't be lazy in what you put out. Like you can really see how much care and love and work goes into everything you do.
Yes. This year I actually released a free course. It's called Procreate for Beginners, just because I was getting a lot of questions about Procreate. And I was like, you know what? I can just put all this inside of a course and that will answer a lot of common questions that people have. So that helped build my email list too. But it was more so just giving as much value as possible. It's 2.5 hours long. It's completely free. There's no asking you to stay on my email list or anything like that. You can leave anytime. You get lifetime access to it. And I wanted people to see, if you take a course from me, this is the type of quality you can expect. So if you ever want to take a course from me in the future, just expect this level of quality and value that you get from me.
Brilliant.
So nice. As far as marketing, it's just making sure that, obviously I need to make a living. So it's providing valuable resources to my audience that I know that will help them. One of the biggest things that I started doing was I started making tutorials originally of stuff that I enjoyed. And then as I got comments and requests, maybe this is just common sense, but I didn't see it at the time. I had to shift doing what I wanted to do and start creating things that I was being asked to do. Whenever someone would request something on one of my videos, instead of doing what I had planned on doing, I'd be like, all right, I'll just do that next week. I'll give them this video because this is going to help somebody. So I started shifting to listening to my audience 100%, whatever they were requesting. If I was getting multiple requests, it was like, all right, I have to put this one ahead of what I had planned because I want to make sure I'm helping these people that seem to really be interested in the same topic.
What about people who haven't got a very big audience, so they don't really get many requests? Is there would you just put a question out there and ask people what they want?
Yes. Yep. Every January, I was emailing my email list and asking them, what would you like to see from me this year? And I would create a poll and just kind of shoot out some topics that were interesting to me that I knew that I would be passionate about and excited to create for them and see kind of where that netted out, because my email list, those are my people. So I want to make sure that I'm filling their needs more before my own or anybody else's. So I would always poll them every year. So that would kind of give me the game plan for the rest of the year of how I wanted to divvy up my time.
Love it. Look at Dustin taking notes as always. I feel like we need to start charging you to be part of this group, Dustin. You've got about 10 books worth of insight from our guests.
I don't know why you guys don't write any of this down. We get literally gems every week.
I know, it's because you do it for us. We're like those kids at class. We're just going to look at your homework.
Except for mine is on an envelope. It's insane.
That is so
Actually, that's a bit like mine, just rough sheets of paper that I've got
Yeah, so far my notes say make sure that I marry someone that's great at coding. I think
it's
that's
a huge
good
advantage.
takeaway.
I'm not going to lie.
Teela, so just going back to the mindset behind all of this. Like, what kept you persevering through all of it? You mentioned like the nice comments and the community propping you up. Was there something more? Because it's not normal, like what you did and what you do, and it's not normal what any of us do. When you try and actually break it down for regular people, they're like, really? Like, that's how you spend your free time?
Yeah.
Or, you know, so what kind of kept you going through?
I think just being really passionate about what I was like. I love art. I've always loved art. I've always loved design. I've always loved hand lettering. So the fact that I could do that on the nights and weekends, still make some money off of it, and I would have people enjoying what I was putting out compared to how completely opposite that was during my day job, that's what like got me excited, and I would look forward to it every day. And my husband, who I worked with at the studio, he would see the environment, and it was nice for me to like kind of complain to him, and he would agree with me though. He would say, that's totally true. I don't understand why they're this way. You did a great job with this. They should have sold it. So he helped me a lot with my confidence when it was pretty low, because we were in the trenches together, and he saw what I was going through and how I was being treated. And we were both pretty ready to be done at that point. And the fact that we could potentially both quit at the same time, which was kind of a risk. We've never had a wedding. We took what we were going to use for our wedding, and it became our emergency fund when we left. So we got married by a judge for like $150. Yeah.
Nice.
That's cool.
I like that.
Yeah. So
nice.
he quit too, because at the time he was still kind of teaching himself how to code. And the master plan was he was going to make WordPress themes on ThemeForest. And I was just going to continue with the blog and courses and see how it would go. And then as the courses started taking off, I was like, I need a better website. You need to make my website before you make other people's websites. So that's what he did. And then slowly I would be like, well, I need this to be improved. Can you do this? And he would get really excited and go and learn how to do it. So slowly we were kind of like, you fit more working directly with every Tuesday than you do like doing your own thing and trying to make money off of selling WordPress themes. So he I think made 2 WordPress themes and then stopped, and he's been, doing it with me ever since.
Brilliant. Have you ever seen that creative director since?
I haven't, and I hope I never do.
Oh, I want you to give him a great big middle finger.
I still I think it's still too soon. Like, it's still painful just thinking about everything. But like, I wish him well. He's since moved on to his own job, so a different job. So
okay, maybe he listens to this show.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Do you hear that?
I don't know. But it feels good, like for me, it was kind of proving to myself too, being rejected so much in that job to then be able to find success on my own and to keep it going now for 4 years. It really validated so much for me. And that has helped a lot my confidence, because through those years I had like no confidence at all because of that rejection. So even putting myself out on YouTube was like a huge thing. Being an introvert, my husband bought me a USB mic for Christmas and was like, you have to do it. You have to do it. And he made me do it. I don't know if I would have done it on my own. So I made him leave our apartment at the time, because I was like, you can't listen to me. It's going to make me too nervous. So and then it just went really well, and people online have just been amazing. So that really kept me going too. Yeah.
I'd just like to reiterate, that's how every person who does YouTube videos starts out. That just sort of get everyone out of a
Look at me, listen, just go away. I'm still like that.
And no one else cares. I get this with Maxine all the time. And I'm so comfortable doing it now, but something about like the people closest to me, when I'm doing like video responses on Instagram to people, and I'm like, I'm kind of cringing, because I think I go into like American mode for one thing. So I talk differently with my community than I do with her. So I'll be like, hey, thanks so much for the support, and like this kind
American.
of thing. Like enthusiastic. We don't do enthusiasm in England. So she'd give me a weird look, like, why are you talking like that? So Teela, you mentioned a couple of times how you are an introvert, and I think that's quite a common excuse not to explore this stuff, and it always bugs me when people hide behind it, because I know plenty of introverts that are fantastic at doing things like what you do. what tips or insight can you give to why it is entirely possible?
Well, the internet makes it so possible, which is incredible for us, especially as an introverted artist. With my first tutorials, I was doing a lot of Adobe Illustrator is kind of like my sweet spot. I love Illustrator. So with doing screen recordings, I never really had to put my face up. So that was comforting for me, that I just had to be a voice behind the mic. And when I'm talking about the program or walking someone through how to do something, that's where I'm the most confident, is teaching what I know in Illustrator. Like, that is what I can do in my sleep. Anything else, like if I have to be on camera or trying to talk about some other topic, then I get really nervous. But
I hate to do it to you, Teela. This is a video show as well.
I know. Well, look at how long it took me. This is what, how many years? But yeah, so starting out, it was really easy to hide behind the screen and still, have a picture of myself on my channel and just teach them how to make the art. And they heard my voice and I could edit it as much as I needed to. So that took a lot of pressure off when I was recording. Whenever I'd fumble my words, I could just think, all right, I can edit that out. I'll be fine. So I did that for a really long time before I really ever showed my face. When I published my first course, I was like, all right, for the trailer of the course, I'm going to have to show myself. And that was nerve-wracking. But you just have to do it, So...
And now you've done, like I mentioned, our weekly hangout. I'm sure it's not the only time, but that was live.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. My first ever was a teachable webinar. And that was like, oh my gosh, anxiety through the roof the first time ever. And they had a ton of people show up. And yeah, that was really nerve-wracking. But I have to do it. I know that if I want to build my brand and, want to help more people, that's how I have to do it, is I need to break through these things that are really difficult for me, because it helps me grow as a person too. It's good for me, even though it's really difficult.
Scary. Yeah.
So,
it's how you grow, right?
Exactly. So
it's one of your quotes, Tom. The thing that you find
fear the most
is the thing you should be doing.
Yes, it's a good one.
Sure, I stole that from Will Smith or something, but yeah, completely. But it is true. And Teela, I'm not necessarily as introverted as that, but I completely empathize. I've been through that, and there's been times where I've gone on like live chats and been terrified. But you do come out each one like a little bit stronger, right?
Definitely.
You might have a few little bruises along the way, but it's like you feel better afterwards and you feel kind of proud of yourself.
For sure. Yeah.
Do you feel proud? That might sound like a weird question, but I think often we don't stop to actually celebrate how much we've accomplished.
That's true.
I do. I definitely do. Because looking back on it, like if you had told me when I was struggling and like crying every day at my last job that I could be doing this right now, and I just had a daughter, which I didn't even think like I would be able to have a family because of this mountain of student loan debt, which we're now totally debt free, my husband and I, and we were able to like start a family and do this full time every day. And I get to wake up in the middle of the night with her if I need to. And I know that I can go back to sleep and I can nap during the day when she naps if I have to get caught up on sleep. And I'm able to see her grow every day and work with my husband, who's my best friend in the whole world. Like we get to do this together every day. Like it's the biggest dream ever. So I don't know how I wouldn't be proud of that, just being able to have this life now compared to like how miserable I was for so long, because from 2008 to 2015 was like the darkest time in my whole life. And it was so hard. But to be able to be here now is like,
Yay.
It's everything now.
Yay.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
When I had started my business, was right as my first daughter was going to be born. It was started because I was kind of in a similar situation, and yeah, it is the greatest feeling to look back and realize I've got to stay home. So many dads don't. So to look back and be able to realize, oh wow, it's been staying home watching these kids grow up.
Yeah.
It's very neat.
Privilege.
It makes me happy when it's like, how was your day, Dustin? You're like, I got to play like princesses saved from the castle today or whatever.
Right. And it helps with design too. I've like learned to appreciate all the different shades of pink. Like little girls, like seriously, like have very specific preferences on pinks.
Nice. Oh, that's great. Okay, so you work with your husband every day.
Yep.
I have to be honest. If I had to work with Cliff, there would be blood, there would be death. How are you doing that? You obviously.
Well, what does your husband do?
Well, at the moment, he will be retired for the rest of his life, but he is retired. But even if he wasn't, if he was still working, and he actually helps me do a bit of my admin, and even that is an absolute pain. It's like.
Oh, poor Cliff. He's not even here to defend himself.
You know what it is? It's because we are so headstrong. So maybe you guys have more amenable personalities, but the two of us just, I don't know. We both right.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm super type A. Very like. I get stressed really easily, and Spence is just the most laid back, easygoing person. Sometimes I'm like upset, like, why aren't you more upset about this? You know, like, come on. But yeah, I think because when we worked together at the studio before we started dating, and so we were already working, we had to work in that environment first, and then we started dating, and we were juggling like who we were outside of work and who we were in work, and he's just like such an easy person to get along with all the time.
That's interesting.
So
you kind of get the practice of the parts once the romance wears off, but beforehand. So when that comes, you already know what it's going to be like once you've been together a year.
That's really funny. Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
So it was actually like a super easy transition. One of our coworkers asked once, like, don't you ever get sick of each other? Like, you come to work together, you go home together, like you're always around each other. And I was like it didn't even occur to me that I should not enjoy that, because I was like, it makes me happy. Like who else would I ever want to be around all the time? Like, I love being around him.
I think that's a really special thing. I think it's quite rare. We shall see. I think I'm probably slightly more in Lisa's camp. And I think most people would be, because I've talked to you about this, Teela. I like the separation. I think if Maxine did what I did, I would go too far down the rabbit hole. She stops me going like too manic into all this stuff.
Like,
I know you do.
We have to build in date nights so we don't talk about work, because it's like we talk about work all the time, but we're so like very similar the way we look at the work, and we're both extremely passionate about the same things. So,
here's a question: we all burn out. Do you burn out together? Like, are you on the same cycle?
I think I burn out much quicker than he does, because Spence can do a tutorial in JavaScript one day and then build me something in another day. Like, he changes things up constantly, whereas I always feel like, all right, I'm getting prepared for this course, and my whole life is about this course for this amount of time, and then after I do the course, now I have to offer a ton of support for the course, so I'm like in the trenches for a really long time, and it can get really stressful that way, and I can feel some burnout afterwards, whereas Spence is just like hopping around with different things the whole time. But he's really good. He can tell when I start he gets my cues now, where he can be like, what do I need to do today to make you happy? Like, I will do whatever you need me to do. And just get done whatever you need to get done.
Man, he sounds amazing.
Yeah, I know. I want to marry him. He's putting the rest of us to shame.
Okay, Teela, I have to ask you a question, as I think it's fair to say I'm the most anxious person in this entire group. And I find myself extremely anxious, and like for the first few years that I had my shop, I was constantly monitoring and paying attention to what other people were doing and getting stressed and trying to essentially like keep up with what I felt like was every single person I was trying to keep up with. And I've learned to manage that way better, largely by selective ignorance.
Yes.
But how do you handle, because I think the natural inclination for a lot of people is when you see someone else do something, or you feel this competition inside of yourself, you want to work yourself into the ground. What ways have you found to manage yourself when you feel like it's becoming too much?
So I would say like I'm kind of a competitive person to begin with. I kind of feel like we all have to be in order to be in this space. But I'm
definitely more competitive than you.
Yeah. I bet you're not.
Dad joke. Sorry, go on.
That was actually quite a good dad joke.
But I'll like be scrolling on Pinterest, and I'll see like tutorials that I've done in the past be ripped off, and that like that just makes my stomach turn when people are ripping off my work, like more so than like me competing or like seeing other people come out with really great stuff and me wanting to keep up. Like that's the part that like guts me, is when I see my stuff being copied, or like they'll watch one of my courses and then they'll post like the step-by-step directions on their website and make this Pinterest image that just kind of goes viral. And I'm like, what the heck, you know, like, I know you just word for worded what I taught. I know you got this from me.
So how do you handle it?
So part of me is like, I could send a nicely worded email to this person. But then the other part of me is like, you know what? This is just part of it. Being online, it's going to happen. These aren't my people. I remind myself of that often, and that I just need to keep focusing on what I'm doing. I purposely don't watch like tutorials, or because I'm doing so many tutorials and courses, I purposely stay away from other people's like Procreate tutorials and courses. I stay away from Illustrator tutorials, courses. I've been teaching font making now for a few years. Like I stay away from all of that as much as possible, because that, like, my anxiety, oh my gosh, it's like it's nauseating when I see.
You are speaking to my heart with that. I do that exact same thing.
It's
I
so
stop looking
hard.
at home pages of sites. I stop looking at what other people are doing.
You have to, yeah.
If I don't want to be, it'll eat at me like a little monster inside. So I'm just like,
and the other thing is because I get so upset when I feel like people are ripping off what I'm doing, that I don't want to be influenced by what anybody else is doing in the same space. And that helps me to always have my own original content. And I feel like then I can offer my readers and my viewers something really special, that when they come to see me, they know that they're getting something really unique, authentic, that it's not been filtered through some like, let's not make it too much of a copy, you know, like everything I do is from like my gut and things that I experiment with and try and I want to teach.
I just want to play that last bit on repeat like 10 times for people, because it is such a great tip. And I think, I don't know about you guys, I feel like it's human nature to fall into the wrong way of doing that.
Yeah, and also it forces, sometimes when you are looking at what other people are doing and you're comparing, and you actually start designing or creating out of panic. You don't do it out of
that. Exactly that. It's it's freaking terrible. Like you guys have seen, like I started doing those kind of slideshow things on Instagram, right? Not the first person to do it, but I think one of the very early ones. I think I saw Michael Jander doing it, and I was like, oh, this is cool. This will give me more space for my ideas. Started doing it, and then I think after a little while, like Christo started doing it, and I was like, oh, this is really nice. Unlike my company, I'm not worried about competition. There's only about 3 or 4 people doing this, and I want to support all of them, and we all support each other, and we're all friends. This is how it should be. Within a few weeks, there is now hundreds of people doing it. Some of them literally posting the exact same like color palette and fonts that I'm using, and like I'm ripping it up. And it's everywhere. And I instantly slipped into that thing of like, oh man, I need to be on the defensive here. I need to like mix things up. I need to do things differently. I need to operate from this place of fear. And it starts becoming less enjoyable. You start getting more anxious. And I had to kind of grab myself a few days ago and be like, the hell am I doing? I'm like failing to take the advice we give out on our own damn show. And it's just, I think it's human nature just to kind of operate from this place of fear at times. So I love what you're saying, Teela. Is there any advice you can give for like actually doing that and living that and sticking to it outside of just, you know, it being a good idea?
It's a good idea, so you should do it.
But what do you do there? Like, do you block websites? Do you unsubscribe from certain email lists? Like,
when I'm scrolling through Pinterest, if I see things, I won't click on them anymore. When I would see my stuff being ripped off, I would click into it and be like, all right, how much are they ripping me off? And now I'm like, I don't even want to know. I'm just going to keep scrolling, do my own thing. Yep. When I see, same thing on Instagram, just keep scrolling. You know, I can't do it.
My employee will tell me sometimes, she'll be like, you've got to see this. Like, you've got to see how much this looks like something. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. Or she'll be like, X person just came out with this. And I'm like, no, blah, blah, blah. No, don't tell me. Like, I've
it's
even like
I caught you.
Seriously, I've even by instinct on certain pages found myself going like this until the page loads to a different page. Yep. Because I'm just like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Dustin, like even like beyond just anxiety, we've had this with the team, and someone will be like, oh, look at this like rip off, or look at this terrible thing, and before I know it, 6 people are gathered around one monitor, And I'm
you're
like,
spiraling.
forget anxiety. And I have to say, guys, stop, because all you're doing is wasting everyone's freaking time having like essentially a bitch and a moan and getting negative. And thankfully this doesn't happen anymore, but I did notice a bit of a pattern where one person would loudly be like, oh, look at this, and before you knew it, half the team are there wasting their day feeling terrible about something. It's like there is nothing to be gained from that. It's so unconstructive.
So I have a fun fact. The first time that you and I ever emailed each other was because someone ripped off one of my freebies and put it in, and you guys had it in your bundle.
What?
So I emailed. I was trying to look up like when you and I first emailed each other, and I think it was like 2013. And
oh my god, way to shame me live on air, Teela.
No. But you guys made it right. Like you had no idea. There was no way for you guys to have any idea that that's what had happened. But I had emailed, and Carol emailed me back and was like, all right, I'm going to send this over to Tom. And then you and I emailed quite a bit about it. It got revised,
I think I remember that.
Taken care of. Yeah. But that was the whole reason that you and I started emailing. So it's kind of all worked out in the end, you know?
And here you are now.
Exactly. It's kind of a cool story, even though it was kind of crappy, but it's funny how like that led to this.
Yeah, that's crazy. Memory lane.
Yeah.
It's amazing how shameless people really are. Yeah, every day I'm amazed by it, actually, to be honest. But there's another example.
Yeah, but we just have to, like, as designers, we have to just keep putting out really high quality things, because even when people rip off your stuff, it's never going to be as high quality as what you're putting out. And you know that deep down at the end of the day. Like, people are always going to copy, but they're not going to be able to keep up with you because you're just moving on to the next thing and they're still trying to copy the last thing.
Absolutely.
So you just keep being the first.
If you're building this business of high quality and unique content, your fans actually do half the work for you.
Yes,
I mean, they're more outraged than you are sometimes.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
I'm just picturing Lisa doing one of those like public shaming posts with a little bit bunny being like, "Go get him, everyone!" Like, go send that hate mail.
Yeah.
Do you like Lisa? Because you've got your recent product has been really popular. Is that thought crossed your mind that someone might release one?
No,
the thought crossed my mind the minute I made it. So yeah.
Shall we place a bet? And Teela, you need to be part of this. Do you know the product we're talking about?
Yes, I do, and it's awesome, by the way.
Wow! Thank you.
It's amazing. So, it's not if, it's when.
Yes.
It will happen. It will happen 100%. We are obviously going to make a point of whoever does it will probably try and sell it with us, and we'll be like, But how long?
I'm surprised they haven't ripped off yours, Ian. Actually,
there's been a few.
Have they?
I was going to say that must have happened by now.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The thing is, I suppose, me and Stefan have been so renowned with it being. So if someone brings out something else, they're like, "Well, this is not.
We're like, what?
This is not official."
Yeah.
So
the grid build kit or something. How many weeks do we think? And this is going on record. It's going to be until we spot an obvious copycat of Lisa's product. I'm going to say not that many. I think 4 or 5.
I think 2.
I actually, saying that, I've seen something today which was taking a very similar tack. It was different enough.
Yeah.
The sort of using the sort of shapes. It was actually what it was a cross between. It was yours and my product.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't think it'll be.
But that's why you always have to go for. Now we're giving tips for those who are copying, but that's why you always have to go the extra mile and give more than just the product. Like, that's why I'm working on creating tutorials, like at least 2 a week, and how to use it, and you want to keep like adding value as a Teela. I know you do the same thing. Like with all the things you do, it's like you just give and give and give, and I think that is beneficial in the long run for us.
It's a higher barrier to entry. You want someone to look at you guys and go, "I'm not copying that. That's way too much work."
Well, they're doing it for the wrong reasons too. They just want to make a quick buck. So you're in it for the long term and really helping people. So I think that that shows right away.
And it's like just down to like the cover. Sometimes it's just like Lisa's cover's always really beautiful, And
nice,
someone
yeah.
try copying it, it'd just be like just some text, just saying
Sure.
some
Yeah.
grids.
Yeah, 100%. Teela, so what's next for you?
What's next is this year has been about figuring out our new life now that we have a daughter. And I feel like we're starting to get in our groove again. It was pretty difficult the beginning of the year, obviously. So I'm about to release a new course October 1st, and then reopening my font course for the last time this year. And then next year will be all about, new courses, hopefully, and, adding value to the audience and
You're
seeing what else we can do
full-on
for them.
educator mode.
Yes, I love, I kind of consider myself a serial course creator because I love it so much. It's my favorite thing that I do is create courses. So that's, if I can just do that every year for who knows how long, like I'm happy. Like I get so much fulfillment from that.
Well,
Amazing.
I have no doubt.
We can people within out of the audience start their own, because you do both Skillshare and you both do off your own platform as well.
Mm-hmm.
What would someone who's just starting out, would you recommend they do? Because obviously Skillshare have a massive platform and a massive audience.
Yeah.
Is that best to go that way, or do you think it's best just to have your own course and just start building like an audience and an email list that way?
So I like them both for different reasons. I think you need to kind of have a following for either one if you want to find success with selling courses online. So with Skillshare, it's really nice because they do provide you a little bit of traffic, but with your own platform, you have the potential to make far more and to actually not saying that you can't pursue it full time if you want to do Skillshare, but with Skillshare, you have to consistently be posting new classes all the time to keep that consistent income. Whereas when it's your own course, you can do all of your promotions constantly and really capitalize on the high value, and you get to price it. So there's I think a far higher potential with self-hosting.
Teela, can you explain something to me? I've heard that before. I've heard from other people that have a pretty high profile on Skillshare. Typically, they're put into some sort of agreement where they will make a course X amount of months or whatever, right? And the income you would think as you make more courses would go up, yet it seems to stay even. And somehow it goes down if you don't with the same amount of courses. What's happening? Do you know?
Yeah, so you get paid per minute watched with Skillshare. So if you have a bunch of courses, the new courses are always going to get the most attention because Skillshare, new courses are published on their platform every single day, and those are going to get a lot more attention than the old courses. The old courses kind of fade into the background. They don't show up high in search anymore. I wish Skillshare would allow course creators to use lengthier tags, like long tail keywords for their courses. And there's just basic tags there. So when you create a course on iPad lettering, for example, it's going to get shuffled in with all these other ones. There's no way to really filter it down further. So even though you have a bunch of courses, they're all kind of in the background. So your residual is pretty even because it's all based on minutes watched, and you're hoping that people are watching your courses. But
Teela,
yeah,
I definitely would love to get you back on the show if you'd be willing to actually talk about course creation.
Yeah,
because I think you're such a specialist. You've had so much tremendous success, but that is definitely a whole episode in itself. So I know today we've kind of touched more on like the transition you've made and how you've carved out this incredible career. And that's been so interesting. But yeah, if you're up for geeking out over creative courses, I think that would be really fun.
Absolutely.
Perfect. I will let the team know. But in the meantime, where can people find you?
So you can find me over on my site, every-tuesday.com, and on my YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/everytues. There's no day at the end of it, just everytues.
Everytues.
Yep.
Nice. Well, everyone, I highly, highly recommend that you go check it out. Honestly, you've got such an abundance of teaching on there. There are just hundreds, thousands.
There's
it seems
hundreds,
like endless tutorials. Yeah. There's a ton of learning on there, a ton of great resources, freebies. Like, go check it out, guys. And Teela, we can't wait to have you back on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
That's great.
Of course.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com or find us over on iTunes and now Spotify by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for other designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.